Tell us about your crazy adventures in Australia and the witches that tried to subvert you.
That was bonkers. I mean, I've been down under 6 times speaking, and it's always just been peaceful and happy and fine and wonderful. And as I was getting ready to fly out, I was getting some messages that things are getting a little turbulent on the ground there, of protests and people arguing that I shouldn't be coming to the schools. And it's like, okay, you know, par for the course. Sometimes you get a little upset people that you're coming in. When I was going to go to Ireland years ago, I was getting messaged on Twitter that they were going to boil me in a cauldron if I came there. So it's like, yeah, sometimes you'll get these things. And I didn't think too much of it, but by the time I had landed, it had blown into an absolute just dumpster fire of controversy all over the news, the media, that this American misogynistic chastity preacher is coming, you know, to these schools. Then there's a transphobic, homophobic message. And
Christopher?
No, this one was me. And so the schools are getting kind of cold feet, like, uh-oh, we don't really want this negative publicity. What do we do here? And parents were calling in, writing to the newspaper. One mom wrote to the newspaper. She said, look, I didn't send my daughter to that school to teach her outdated notions of being pure for a man, but to be strong and independent, you know, as if strength and purity are mutually exclusive. But the schools were getting so much opposition, 3 of them backed out and said, we're calling it, we're not having the talk, we'll make it optional as a live stream kind of event for any students who want to watch a chastity talk during the break, as if any really would. And thankfully, other schools jumped in and said, hey, look, if you don't want the slots, we'll take the slots. But when the schools announced that they weren't going to have the presentation and have me in person, a group of people came forward claiming victory and said we were the ones behind the whole thing. And it was a group of self-professed witches who had more than 60,000 followers on X. And they're like, we're the ones who did this whole thing. And, you know, thank goodness what a witchy success we've had. And these, you know, tweet after tweet proclaiming we're behind this whole thing. And then they weren't done there. They started calling the venues where I was speaking, demanding that the hotels cancel the venues. I was speaking at a conference for young adults. The tickets were free, but you had to register online. And the witches were getting all the tickets, just reserving them all so none of the young adults could come. It's like, wow, this is getting really, really dicey. And so what I did is I just hopped on Instagram. And I emailed some people asking for prayers. I emailed Sister Bethany Madonna with the Sisters of Life. And I'm like, hey, it's getting kind of dicey out here. Can you send in some air support with the intercession? And so she said, I am on it. She said, I will have every nun in our community praying. She said, especially the suffering sisters. I will reach out to them. And this is like being boots on the ground in Afghanistan. You just call in some F-22s when you get that air support coming in. I called Monsignor Esif, who's just an extraordinary priest, and prayed with him, and then I hopped on Instagram. I'm like, hey, could y'all just pray? I said, you know, what's going on right now is there's this group of self-professed witches that are trying to cancel all these chastity talks. But I said, you know, before I came here, I consecrated the whole trip to Our Lady. And so thinking that a bunch of self-professed witches are going to overturn Our Lady's plans, that's kind of like thinking that a bunch of house cats can take on a Siberian tiger. You know, nothing to fear here. Now, the media took that clip that I put on Instagram, sliced it and diced it a little bit, and said the American chastity preacher is hitting back against moms who don't want him to speak at their schools. Watch here. And then it cuts to the clip. If these witches think they can they're coming against this tiger, and then they cut it. And so
good old ABC.
Imagine being like an Australian housewife just watching TV, like, look at this jerk.
Everything they told me about Americans is correct.
Like, I'm a witch because I don't want some misogynist jerk telling my daughter, you know, all these outdated notions. And so it just got nuts. And then on the final presentation, you know, it was about 1,000 young adults came to this thing, and everything was going smoothly. The priest was in the back of the room. We had quite a bit of security because we were expecting something to go down. And as a priest in the back of the room, he saw a group of people came in, and he's like, well, they look kind of suspicious. And he kind of walked over to them and said, you know, can I offer you a seat? And they said, no, we want to stand. We're cold. We want to be warm. He's like, that's weird. You know, it's warm in here already. And so he just kind of hung back, keep an eye on him. And then as soon as I start talking, they start these rhythmic incantations, hexes, curses, blasphemies. And he can hear them saying,
them from the
my name.
stage?
No, I'm way up in the front. He's in the back.
Yeah.
But he can hear them, Jesus, Mary, saying my name, blasphemy, hexes, all this stuff. And priest is like, okay, you want to roll? Let's go. Pulls out his rosary and just starts praying the rosary next to them. And I'm oblivious to all this up on stage. And then after the presentation was done, we roll right into adoration. And so I'm putting the microphone down. As I'm putting it down, I thought, wow, like nothing happened. It went smooth. And then I feel this, someone dumps a can of tomato soup on my head in front of 1,000 people. This is a guy who kind of snuck up on stage as a protester with the young adults that were setting up the altar for adoration and got past security, dumps the tomato soup on my head. Security grabs him, starts wrestling him away. And then, you know, I just immediately said, okay, everybody, let's pray a Hail Mary for this man. And so all 1,000 of us start doing a Hail Mary over the guy.
As he's being dragged out.
As he's being dragged off. And the security guy was right up in the guy's face and said he was bizarre. The guy's eyes were like feral, just like these beady, like he just was not all there. And he said he was trying to scream something, but during the Hail Mary, there's nothing coming out. It was like he was just bound. He couldn't speak. So they drag him out, get in a physical fight with the guy, get him off the property, and he comes back a half hour later with 2 other guys with like ski masks and hoodies on to get back into the facility to do who knows what. And, you know, the poor Australians came up afterwards and they're like, oh, you know, I'm sorry, mate, that happened to you, you know, all the tomato soup. And, you know, I was like, look, I have 8 kids. This is what I look like at the end of the day. Anyway, I've had food thrown at me for 20 years. It could have been worse. It could have been cream of broccoli or something. But then one of the guys who's a security also works with a priest who does deliverance work. And he said, good on you, mate. He said, you're right over the target. Look at this. And he laid out a map. And he said, here's where the covens traditionally are. These are where some satanic cults are. Here's where a bunch of new age nonsense is going on. You're right here. He said, you're over the target. And essentially what you're doing is you're just kicking a hornet's nest talking about chastity. And some people that were following the Twitter conversation were commenting and they're like, oh, they're not real witches, mate. And then other people are chiming in, speak for yourself. We're going to go scorched earth on this man. And so it was really eye-opening for me to see that sometimes they take the spiritual battle more seriously than we do. I was talking to an exorcist down there who's Archbishop Porteous. So he's in charge of Hobart down in Tasmania. Godly, awesome man. I mean, he's fantastic. And what he said to me on a previous trip was that spirituality can't exist in a vacuum. If you disinvite the Holy Spirit, there won't be an absence there. It will be filled in. And the nuns I was talking to said, we see it in our neighborhood. They said, we can just look outside the window of our convent into the living room window of our neighbor, and they're just witches doing their liturgy of the hours of different things. And so it was a real check for me of like, okay, am I taking the interior life seriously as the enemies of the church are?
What was your immediate reaction when you felt soup on your head? Because I'm sure that was a disorientating experience. Like, what is happening?
Yeah, it was pretty surprising, especially at the instant that I was thinking nothing happened. And then,
were you surprised? Like, I wonder if that happened to me, if I might be surprised at how immediately angry I might feel or confused, or what was it like for you?
Well, I mean, it was shock instantly, for sure. And then I was like, okay, this is soup. This is not a big deal. And mentally I was thinking, okay, if something happens, you know, we'll just have to roll with it, you know, and see what goes down. But, you know, I wished I could have followed the guy outside and just talked to him, because to me, underneath anger is hurt, is a wound. Who knows that guy's story? Yeah. I mean, honestly, to be frank, he could have been a sexual abuse victim from the clergy scandal. And now he's 24 years old and he doesn't know how to process the hurt, and it comes out as rage. And if all we do is just rage back at them, what good does that do? And so, I just saw him with just a brother's heart of just pity. And, you know, I just pray for the guy. I've kind of nicknamed him Tom for like tomato soup. I just helps me to remember the guy. And, you know, just pray for the guy. But the beauty behind the whole thing is that because the witches were going so bonkers about this, they were taking my Instagram posts, sending them into the media. The media was putting it on the online news stories. People were clicking on the Instagram post, click, click, click. Before you know it, it went from 5,000, 10, 100,000 views. So what that does with Instagram, it just drives it up the algorithm. It tells Instagram, you should show this to more people because this is going viral.
Were there photos of the event and the tomato soup and stuff?
No, the tomato soup thing wasn't filmed because they cut the cameras literally seconds after, because that was the end of my talk before adoration. So they didn't catch it on film. But what they did have on Instagram was my little prayer request that went out with the whole witches thing. So that went out. And that got shared on social media. It started to go viral. But as a result of that, people saw the post who normally never would have. In particular, there was a girl there in Australia from Hawaii visiting her boyfriend. Okay. She finds out he's cheating on her while she's out there. And she's a 25-year-old virgin. She's been waiting her whole life. And she's thinking, this might be the right guy. Finds out he's cheating on her. And then she's like, I'm done. I'm so done waiting for these fake Christian guys to like be the man I want them to be. I'm sick of holding on to my virginity. That's it. I'm done. So she gets on an online dating app and finds whoever she wants to sleep with. And that night, I'm just going to give my virginity away. I'm going to find. So she picks 3 guys, and now she goes to Instagram to do like a background check to see which of the 3 random strangers she's going to give her virginity away to.
She's doing a background check on these people?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure, okay, I just want to pick the right of the 3 guys. I've waited 25 years. I mean, I don't know if they can do a criminal check, but at least see, okay, how sketchy is this guy? And while she's trying to pick which guy to sleep with on Instagram, what shows up in her Instagram feed but my post? And she's like, wait a minute, like, I heard that dude speak at a Steubenville conference when I was a teenager, and he's here in Sydney? And so she DMs me on Instagram and tells me what's going on. And I'm like, girl, I got the young adult talk tomorrow night. Why don't you come? You know, we'll save a seat for you. So she comes to the talk, goes to adoration, goes to confession, has a major reconversion as a result of this whole thing. And then 3 weeks later joins us on one of our wilderness backpacking retreats in Canada. And now she's going to start up a Catholic retreat center in Yosemite as a result of this. None of this would have happened had the witches not intervened and tried to make this whole thing
Big thanks
canceled.
to the witches. Yeah. Me and Jason and the church want to thank you.
So, I mean, it's just like God uses the crucifixion. Yeah, you think the devil thinks it's a victory, but it's the sign of redemption. So
wow. Did you have her on your show as well after that?
Yeah, she came on the podcast. We discussed the whole thing.
Lust is Boring is the name of your podcast. People should check it out.
Yeah, her and Father Sam French came on when we talked about the whole thing.
Oh, he's a wonderful
Isn't he
fella.
awesome?
Yeah. I want to tell you about a course that I have created for men to overcome pornography. It is called strive21.com/Matt. You go there right now, or if you text STRIVE to 66866, we'll send you the link. It's 100% free, and it's a course I've created to help men, to give them the tools to overcome pornography. Usually men know that porn is wrong. They don't need me or you to convince them that it's wrong. What they need is a battle plan to get out. And so I've distilled all that I've learned over the last 15 or so years as I've been talking and writing on this topic into this one course. Think of it as if you and I could have a coffee over the next 21 days and I would kind of guide you along this journey. That's basically what this is. It's incredibly well produced. We had a whole camera crew come and film this. And I think it'll be a real help to you. And it's also not an isolated course that you go through on your own, because literally tens of thousands of men have now gone through this course. And as you go through the different videos, there's comments from men all around the world encouraging each other, offering to be each other's accountability partners and things like that. Strive21, that's strive21.com/Matt, or as I say, text STRIVE to 66866 to get started today. You won't regret it.